everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful puffed sleeve shirt for a stuffed animal. If you think puffed sleeves look too intimidating to attempt, keep watching because I'll show you step by step how to make this. Now let's get started! You'll need pins, scissors, fabric, I love this light turquoise color, Velcro, and some small elastics. They don't have to be this tiny. And you'll also need your patterns. The links to these are in the description box below. I'm first going to use a cutting mat and cutter to cut out my pieces, but you can always use scissors. I'm first pinning down each piece, then cutting it out. As I started using the cutter to cut out the straight edges, I realized that it wasn't really cutting in at all for some reason, so I just ended up using scissors and hopefully I can fix my cutter for the next time. For the smaller back pieces, I'm first folding my fabric in half since I need two of these and I need them to be mirror images of each other. And I'm doing the same thing for the sleeves since I need two, but they don't have to be mirror images. After that, I'm going to start hemming these main pieces by first folding this bottom edge up a tiny bit, then folding it over a little more after that. You can just fold this over once if you want. I'm just doing it twice because the fabric was fraying a ton on this bottom edge and I wanted it to stay really contained and neat in this extra fold. If you fold it twice like me, you just have to be careful to sew pretty close to the top of this fold. And I'm of course doing this with the bad side of my fabric facing up, but with mine you can't really tell, so it doesn't matter. I'm hemming the bottoms of the back pieces as well and then sewing a straight stitch on all these pinned edges. After that, I need to hem the necklines, and I'm making a few cuts around the curved edges just to help when folding that edge over, since folding over curves can be difficult. But cutting it like this makes it so much easier, so I'm just pinning around all the necklines and using a straight stitch to sew them down. Now the last thing to hem on these main pieces is the inside edges of the back pieces, so I'm just folding those in, pinning them in place, and sewing them down. Next we can attach the Velcro, and I ended up trimming mine a bit, but I'm making sure to pin one onto the bad side of one half of the shirt and the other one onto the good side of the shirt, so in the end they face each other and stick together. And since this Velcro is pretty skinny, to sew this on I'm just using a zigzag stitch going straight down for the one on the good side of the fabric, and for the other one I'm using a straight stitch to go around the perimeter of that one, since whatever stitch you do will be visible on the back of the shirt. You'll see what I mean right here. You can just barely see the outline of a rectangle on the back here, but I prefer that over a zigzag. Now I'm going to flip the front piece on top of that one so they're good side to good side, and then pin the tops together and sew them with a straight stitch. After that, I need to hem the bottom edges of the sleeves and make sure the fold is large enough that my elastic and safety pin will be able to fit through. I folded this over twice again just because I thought I might fold up the sleeves and expose this inside edge, but doing that did not look how I thought it would, so it's probably easiest to not double fold this, especially since that extra fold can make it harder to feed through the elastic later. After pinning and sewing this down with a straight stitch, I'm actually going to move on to work on the tops of these curves. Because to make the sleeves puffed where they connect to the shirt, these curves need to be ruffled, so I'm going to do a straight stitch along the tops of these curves and make sure not to lock one end of the stitch. Now we can gather that material through the stitches we just made by grabbing one of the threads on the end that isn't locked, and since it isn't locked you should be able to carefully pull on that thread, which will cause the fabric to start gathering along it. You'll want to keep scooting the ruffles down towards the other end as you pull to help keep it even. You'll want to do this until it gets to the length where it can line up with the curves of the main piece, so I'm just opening mine and lining them up to compare. Once it's the right length, you can line up the two pieces good side to good side along the curves like this, and I actually made a mistake here by having these pieces pinned bad side to bad side, so I had to fix that later, but luckily I caught it before sewing. And after it's pinned, I like to tie off those threads from the sleeve just so the gather doesn't unravel while I'm sewing the pieces together. And now I'm going to do the same to the other sleeve and sew the sleeves on using a straight stitch. After that, the shirt will look like this, and this is already so beautiful, so you could even leave it like this if you want this style, but I'm going for the full puffed sleeve, so I'm going to feed elastic through the bottom edge of the sleeves. I have a tiny safety pin attached to this super thin elastic since I just bought some, but of course you can use a normal safety pin and thicker elastic, or cut it down to whatever size you want. I'm inserting the safety pin through the opening of one side and moving it through the fabric by kind of scrunching it up around the safety pin and then pulling the fabric down around it. This elastic I'm using is 5.5 inches long, which is just long enough to fit around a Build-A-Bear arm, but with such a short elastic, the end was hard to keep track of and it was a little tight, so I recommend cutting a longer piece like 6 inches. Once you reach the other side, I like to use a pin to hold them together while doing the other one. Make sure this is secure because if one of the ends go loose and disappear inside the sleeve, you have to start over. That actually happened to me while doing the second sleeve. The elastic was so tiny it was hard to hold on to, so if you're worried about that, try pinning the end of the elastic with that end of the sleeve so it doesn't get pulled in. If you do end up losing it though, I found the only thing to do is just keep feeding it through with a safety pin, pull it out, and start again. After both of the elastics are through and are pinned with the other ends, we can finally pin down the bottoms of the sleeves, which sewing these down will lock those elastics in place, and the side of the shirt. So I folded it in half with the bad side facing out and pinned those sides together. And now I'm going to sew these with a straight stitch in kind of an upside down L shape, and make sure you are watching those elastics while you sew because my elastic disappeared again at this point, but I think that's just because it was too short to start with. After that, you can trim off any extra fabric, turn it inside out, and your shirt with puffed sleeves is done. I honestly feel like the camera isn't doing this color justice, but I think it turned out amazing. This was my first time making a shirt with puffed sleeves, and I'm really glad it turned out. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'd love to know if you make any of these outfits. Please give this video a like, comment any requests for future videos, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more, and I'll see you next time.